Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we are going deep. We're looking at the Instituto Superior de Lenguas, specifically their 2024 English language program. And let me tell you, what we're going to see is how this program evolved from just, traditional classroom learning into an absolute powerhouse for both local and global impact.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a pretty fundamental question. What actually happens when language learning leaves the classroom? We so often think of language studies as just a stack of grammar textbooks, exams, and endless vocabulary drills. But the data and the stories coming out of the ISL in 2024 paint a completely different picture. It sets up this amazing narrative arc that contrasts standard theoretical learning with dynamic, real-world practice. It really shows us exactly what's possible when education steps out into the real world.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the 2024 Academic Foundation. Second, serving the local community. Third, cultural and global reach. And finally, looking ahead.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the 2024 Academic Foundation.
Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is the sheer unstoppable momentum of the 2024 academic year. These guys are jumping straight from theory to high-stakes field deployment. Back in May, students were actively supporting the Parasol Conference down in Encarnacion. Fast forward to September, and they're applying those exact same skills directly in medical interpreting for Operación Sonrisa. And then by December, that momentum culminated in providing translation services for UNESCO. Talk about a constant driving force of education in action.
Of course, the bedrock making all these deployments possible relies on some major academic milestones. In 2024, the ISL hosted the 8th English Language Symposium, which offered vital training for teachers, translators, and interpreters. Plus, they are heavily invested in the future pipeline of students. Get this, on just one single day in December, 52 candidates sat for the Precursulo grammar exam. Meanwhile, Professor Sharon Weaver was personally conducting oral interviews for incoming candidates. It just goes to show how meticulously the ISL prepares and evaluates its talent before ever sending them out into the field.
Moving right along to Section 2, serving the local community.
Now, this is where we really start seeing students taking those hard-earned academic skills and applying them to grassroots human-centered needs. A profoundly moving example of this happened in September 2024 with Operación Sonrisa. ISL students stepped up to bridge a massive gap in healthcare access by providing medical interpreting. They were literally right there, helping children and youth with cleft lips and palates. Think about that for a second. It's a sharp contrast, right? Moving from standard classroom language exercises to facilitating real, life-changing medical communication, making sure doctors and patients could actually understand each other during such a critical time.
So the crucial point here is this number, 281. That is the exact number of books, alongside about 60 other short and illustrated materials that were collected by second, third, and fourth year English language students. They all united to gather these resources for a local school that was just desperately in need of reading materials.
Which brings us immediately to our next number, 309. Those 281 books tangibly impacted 309 kids at the Escuela Básica 6100 Japonesa over in Aragua. Grounding this story in concrete data is so important, right? Because it proves that community service at the ISL isn't just some abstract feel-good concept. It's providing a measurable educational lifeline to hundreds of local kids.
And it wasn't just, hey, let's drop off a few boxes at a school. First, there was this massive organized collection of materials. Second, they meticulously classified everything by genre and language, separating the Spanish from the English, the novels from the dictionaries. Third came the creation of a formal inventory. And finally, an organized official delivery to the school's library manager. It really proves this was a highly structured, professionally executed project from start to finish.
All right, on to Section 3, cultural and global reach.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you scale up. Take the La Noche de los Museos, or Night of the Museums project. Normally, local reach involves promoting historical sites using native Spanish materials, which is great, obviously, but it kind of limits the audience, right? Well, by bringing in English language students to create digital English translations, they achieved true global reach. They quite literally unlocked Paraguay's cultural and historical sites for the entire world. It was a massive step in expanding international interest in their heritage.
Then we have these incredible micro case studies of global mobility within the ISL. Just look at these success stories. In December 2024, fourth-year student Lucas Ovalar was interpreting for UNESCO at CONMEBOL. No way, right?
Then you have ISL graduate and teaching assistant Licenciado Jorge Brizuela, who is selected by the U.S. Embassy for a 5-week SUSI program. Oh, and Professor Fernanda Barrios? She graduated with a master's from the University of Edinburgh. It's absolutely crucial to highlight this because it shows the incredibly high-level competency and international mobility of both the students and the faculty.
But you know, cultural and global reach is absolutely a two-way street. In December 2024, the institution bid a fond farewell to foreign mobility students Angelica Moncada and Abel Martinez, and as they were taking their traditional souvenirs back home, they noted that they were leaving deeply impressed by the hospitality and warmth of the Paraguayan people. It's just a really beautiful reminder that language programs do more than teach words. They foster deep, lasting human connections across borders.
And finally, Section 4, Looking Ahead.
So, we've seen the massive impact of the 2024 ISL program. We've explored the solid academic foundation, the local community impact, and the sheer global reach. Now, I want to leave you with a provocative question. How can you use your own skills to impact your community? The ISL cohort of 2024 has proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that education is not meant to be locked away in some textbook. Whether it's interpreting for a child in a hospital, cataloging books for a local school, or translating your own culture for the world to see, your knowledge has real power. Take some inspiration from this explainer today, look at the skills you're learning right now, and ask yourself how you can apply them to the real world tomorrow.